Ced.
Howdy, brother.
My man. How's it going, brother?
It goes. These are the days of our lives.
Yeah. I wanted you to come on this new show that I'm doing that is it's a personal, self-indulgent podcast where I'm just interviewing people that I've met and worked with that I think other people will find really interesting as well.
That's cool.
And you're on the list.
I'm honored, flattered, confused to be on
No, come on now. First of all, let me introduce you. Cedric plays in my band. He plays like every kind of reed instrument known to man. Soprano saxophone, alto saxophone, tenor saxophone, clarinet. I think you even play flute, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I can't even remember how you came to be in the band, but here's the thing. In this town, New London, it's a small town. It's not San Francisco. It's not New York. It's not Boston. It's not LA. It's really, really small. Like there's one main intersection of streets, you know, but there's so many great musicians here because you've got the Coast Guard, which you are in the Coast Guard band, and the Coast Guard band is here at the Academy in New London. You've got the Eastern Connecticut Symphony right here. You've got every kind of just band known to man that people are here, whether it's, rock bands or punk bands. New London has a history with punk going back to the 70s. And so there's just so many great musicians here that it's unbelievable the talent that's in our area. And so, my band, Franklin Brothers Band, we really liked hiring Coast Guard musicians because they don't have issues with their girlfriends and homelessness. Number one, they show up, they read, it's like just professionals. The downside is, Coast Guard band members are often on the road and, I can't make that gig or I can't make this gig. But you have just blown our minds with your abilities, musicianship, your taste, the way you quote things. And then we look at your bio. I didn't even know you played with all these people. You're just like, you're a superstar, my friend. Yes.
Actually, so it came to be, I ended up showing up at the studio, plop, to play with you guys because of Tom Brown.
That's right.
Who was playing with you a little bit at the time. And I think you needed a sax player that night for something or another.
Yeah.
And then Tom told me about it and I came and I've been in love ever since.
Tom's a trumpet player in the Coast Guard band.
Yep.
And I, man, where do we start here? So I'm just going to bring up one of your bios here at URI, okay, University of Rhode Island, where you're an artist teacher in music. I didn't even know you taught URI, but here you go. National tour of the Broadway musical, The Music Man, Galveston Island musicals, founder and leader of the new jazz ensemble Epitome, Wynton Marsalis, Chick Corea, Kirk Whalum, Bill Mays, Marvin Stamm, Shelley Carroll, B.B. King, the Village Vanguard Jazz Orchestra, Aretha Franklin, the Four Tops, the Temptations, Roger Ingram, Trombone Shorty, Tori Kelly, Joe McCarthy, Doc Severinsen, and many others. So you're this guy from Houston. You're this kid. What did you get? A call from a Coast Guard recruiter? Hey, you want to have a career in the Coast Guard band? How did you get started in this?
Actually, oddly enough, when I found out about the Coast Guard band, I was in the United States Air Force band. Or I was in Germany in an Air Force band when I found out the Coast Guard had a band.
What?
I never even knew the Coast Guard had a band.
So you enlisted in the Air Force to
Right.
be in the band?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So I was over in Germany, and my very first commander in the Air Force sent me a Facebook message saying, "Hey, I was talking to my friend Ken Megan at the Coast Guard band, and he was telling me they have this clarinet opening that's very niche. And I told him about you, and I think you should take the audition because I think you'd be a good fit. You're a shoo-in for this." And I was like,
Wow.
Wait, the Coast Guard has a band?"
Right. Yeah. It's true. You don't think of it that way, do you? But the more I thought about it, the Coast Guard band is like one of the only salaried musician jobs left in America, isn't it? I mean, maybe not just the Coast Guard, but a military band.
Mm-hmm.
Like you get a full ride, like the benefits and the pension and the whole 9 yards. And you go to work every day and play your horn.
That's it.
If I had known when I probably would never have survived in the Coast Guard band just because of their discipline. I was not disciplined when I was young.
Yeah, neither are we.
Yeah. But what a gig.
It's awesome.
And everybody in the band is just top notch. Now tell me about the New London Big Band. Now first, let me just tell you that there's a big band that you can only compare to the Count Basie Orchestra, really. It's that good. And they're located here in New London, but it's not an official Coast Guard thing. Tell me about that.
So the New London Big Band, run by Sean Nelson, lead trombone player, it's his group that he put together about 7 years ago now, actually. I think it was 2016. And he had been building a roster since he got into the Coast Guard band and got to this area. Just finding out, meeting people, finding out who people were, all the while trying to build this big band that he knew he wanted to put together. And as soon as he got enough of a roster, he went for it, put it together. He gathered up some charts, and we went from there. And it's been swinging ever since.
And you got cats from New York, from Boston, from Hartford, Providence, New Haven, right?
Yeah. His list is long. There's people from about as far and wide as New York to Boston and all in between, maybe even further, that come in and play with the band.
Is there anything like that anywhere from Maine to Florida that you know of?
I would imagine the answer is probably yes. I think like in the DC area where you've got like, you know, the Emirate of Note, the Army Blues, all those guys, they do that gig, but then on the side, they do their own outside gigs. So I know for a fact that they've recorded some outside recordings as part of, blah, blah, big band. Ben Patterson, trombone player, he put together a group and they've recorded a lot of stuff of his music. And I'm sure that in that area, in that pocket, from probably stringing from Delaware to the Carolinas, they got cats, I would guess.
Yeah.
But DC, kind of like here, it's crawling with musicians.
Sure. Yeah. But it's kind of rare is what I'm getting at.
Definitely.
And that's the feeling that I get when you're in a club. And this is a restaurant bar, The Social, in New London. And there's this big stage, and there's a how many piece? 20?
Roughly 17, give or take, depending.
All right. So 17 to 20 piece band just killing it. And you feel like you're like in Harlem in the 30s or the 20s, just, witnessing this amazing music. And
awesome.
And Sean even writes some of the charts, doesn't he?
He's got a book full of, some standard repertoire, some more eclectic, not so standard charts. And then there's also a number of tunes in there written by him or people in the band.
Yeah.
Some originals. So it's a good mix of stuff to perform live and to record with.
first met Sean, I think Tom was the first one that I met, Tom Brown, the trumpet player. But he brought Sean to a recording session that the Franklin brothers did of Green Earrings by Steely Dan. And that was the first time we heard him really well.
Nice.
And oh my God, just all you guys are just so great.
Awesome.
So great. So tell me about Houston in the early days of Ced Mayfield. What was it like growing up there?
You know, I love Houston. It's my hometown, and I can't wait to get back very soon when I retire. But oddly enough, while growing up in Houston, I played, but I wasn't in the music scene at the time, because when I was young, I was strictly a classical clarinet player.
Really?
That's what I did. That's what I wanted to do. So I was all in, all classical all the time.
Wow.
And so in that regard, I did some stuff there as much as, a 16-year-old player could or whatever. And then I left Houston when I graduated and went to school in Dallas at SMU for classical clarinet. And then, while I was there, that's when I caught the jazz bug.
Yeah.
The 1 o'clock lab band from the University of North Texas, which is down the highway from SMU. And after that, I was hooked. I checked out a saxophone for the first time and got to shedding.
What got you into, what gave you the idea that I want to be a classical clarinetist? Because, when I look around like the classical orchestras, I don't know about the South, but around here, I don't see too many black clarinet players.
That's everywhere. And that's a thing that many of us who are able to play in ensembles are trying to help change.
Yeah.
It's been a systemic thing for decades and even centuries. The color of professional orchestras, that's a thing. And
right.
That
and
number.
Do you think, screw it, man, I'm just going to do this because I want to do it?
I loved it. And at the time, I got to be blissfully ignorant of this fact. I didn't even realize that was the thing. I played. There were opportunities, and no one told me that I couldn't do it or that was the thing. So I was just blissfully ignorant. I was like, yeah, let's go, let's play,
Yeah. And you must have been a huge fan of Wynton back then.
Back then, I didn't even know who Wynton Marsalis was.
Really?
No idea. Here's the moment when I realized I wanted to be a professional musician. I was playing with the Houston Youth Symphony, my senior year of high school, and our final concert, we played a good long rep list of stuff. We did Tchaikovsky's Fifth Symphony, a couple of other things, and then we also played a movement from a Mozart piano concerto featuring Chick Corea.
What?
I'd never heard of Chick Corea before in my life.
Oh yeah, he's on your list.
And so we're rehearsing, preparing this piece. Yeah. No idea who Chick Corea is. Never heard of him, never seen him, never heard his music. So he comes the day of the gig and we warm up with it real quick. And then we played in the concert and he was mind blowing.
Right.
He was just so cool. I had never seen anything like that, in person.
Right.
I grew up in church, so I saw musicians shredding all the time.
Right.
I've never seen anything like this.
This
was something
pure improv.
And so then after the Mozart, then he did a whole thing by himself. And I was just like, what is he doing? And then after that, he said, now we're just going to have some fun on stage. Some of the orchestra musicians come down and we're just going to jam.
Whoa.
And so for whatever reason, my friends in the woodwind section pushed me out and I was like, what is going on here? What are you talking about? Where's the music?
Right.
So I'm standing next to Chick Corea at the piano and he's going through blues. And I was like, I don't know what's happening. He goes, don't worry, just play this. Play whatever I play. So I'm standing there and we're trading licks. I have no idea what's going on. I'm just doing it. And the crowd's going wild. And Chick Corea's like, yeah, man, go.
That's so cool.
And I was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever done my whole life. This is what I want to do forever and ever.
Wow. Holy crap. What a story. Just to naturally sort of be put in that situation where it's either, improvise or walk away and shake.
Pretty much.
Holy crap. And so were your parents pushing you into playing music? Like, how did you get so talented? Where did the lessons start and on all that?
The great thing about that is that they never pushed me for anything.
Huh.
They just let me be me. They let me do what I wanted to do.
Wow.
In fact, I had auditioned to get into HSPVA, the Houston School for Visual and Performing Arts, like FAME, if you would.
Yeah.
One of those kind of schools. It's a top-notch school. Like a lot of like juggernaut musicians came out of there. And I got in, but then I told my mom, but I want to play football. And she was like, "Are you sure?"
You certainly could.
Yeah, I want a ball. So she was like, "Okay, cool." So she let me go to a regular high school where I did band and I played football also. Only because, again, she wanted to support whatever it is I want to do.
Wow, God bless her. So you basically weren't pushed by your parents. You just naturally, did you like sit around and play clarinet all day? That's what you wanted to do? Did you?
I played a good bit. Like I was
lessons
without. I didn't really start lessons until like high school, because that was the thing that you were supposed to do.
Right.
Which again, I didn't know. When I was in elementary school, I went to an arts magnet elementary school, and that's where I started playing clarinet.
Yeah.
But there were no lessons. It was an inner city school, and they gave you the horn, you figured it out, you just learned to play.
Yeah.
And then, God bless my mom, she decided that the area that we were in, she didn't want me to continue to grow up in the area, so we moved way out to the west side of town.
Wow.
Predominantly white.
Yeah.
So I go into this junior high as 6th grader, and I signed up for band.
Yeah.
And I played for the teacher, and she was like, you're not going to play in 6th grade band. You're coming with me.
Wow.
And so she was another positive force and just motivating me, like, the sky's the limit. Like, go, do it. And then when I got to high school, they were like, well, the serious players in Texas, they all take lessons from a private teacher and do that whole thing and audition for all region, all state, and all that stuff. So
yeah,
I got on that train and started doing that. And I didn't really know what all that was or what it meant.
Damn.
Teachers told me that that's what people did, and here's some lessons for you.
Yeah.
And like the band boosters, which you didn't realize at the time, were like covering the cost of lessons for me.
Right.
Which was awesome. And, the guy, one of the teachers that I was studying with, who was, now I didn't know then, but now I know he's a world-renowned clarinetist and is now teaching at University of Texas. He forced me to audition for this national ensemble when I was a junior. Again, I knew nothing about it. He was just like, you're going to do this, you're going to learn this music and this. And I was like, okay. So we shared the music. I auditioned for the group. I got in, and it turned out to be this national wind ensemble and choir that would tour Europe.
Whoa.
So that's how I got to go to Europe for the first time.
So when did the saxophones come into the picture?
So I got to SMU as a freshman doing classical clarinet, and I was all in with that. And then, like right before freshman year ended, that's when I heard the 1 O'Clock Lab Band from North Texas. And I was just flabbergasted. Like,
right.
These guys are my age, and I've never heard jazz like that before. Like, my parents listened to smooth jazz.
Right.
I hadn't heard like big band jazz, and like kids my age standing up and shredding on the horn. I was like, what? And so that summer after my freshman year, I checked out an alto and was working on saxophone that summer. And so I got back for sophomore year and told my teachers what I was doing. My orchestra and wind ensemble director was like, you shouldn't do that. It's going to mess up your clarinet stuff. You should focus on clarinet.
Is there any truth to that? I mean, can you screw up your clarinet embouchure if you're messing around with alto sax?
If you don't do some things right and just aren't careful and diligent about figuring out how to properly do each one. I'm potentially, it seems slim to none though.
Okay.
But my clarinet teacher was like, absolutely do it. Like do
okay.
all of it. And so I was like, all right. So he encouraged me to do it.
Yeah.
And it is through jazz that my lenses for classical music opened. Because in trying to learn jazz, I learned to listen better.
Yeah.
And so classical music just kind of opened up for me. It started to make so much more sense.
Yeah.
Once I started trying to figure out jazz.
Isn't that interesting?
At that point, I was like, well, one is good for the other. So now I definitely am doing both. Because I'm learning so much more.
Who are your saxophone influences? I mean, I got to imagine Charlie Parker was on that list.
Well, like when I first started, it was just overwhelming. Like as I crack it open and see what it was, it was overwhelming. And so I had a friend in college, his name was Raul, and he played lead alto in the big band, the student formed big band at SMU, because it was a mostly classical school. And he was like deep into it, man. And so he like took me under his wing and was like, listen to this, listen to these, listen to those, listen to this guy. Here we're going to this concert, this jam session. He like just was shoving it to me. And
were you ever like, listen to Coltrane or Parker or something like that and say, screw this, man, I'm going to go back to football?
I remember trying to take a bite of Coltrane and I just couldn't. It was too much for me.
Yeah.
And so, it was like, well, that's all right. There's some other guys to listen to. So I think I kind of started with Stan Getz.
Yeah.
Was a little more palatable to me. I could kind of hear what he was doing, but he was also pretty shredding.
He was.
And so I started getting used to what he was doing. And then I got into some other tenor players because I had switched to tenor for the big band there.
Yeah, yeah.
And so trying to figure out like Coleman Hawkins, Lester Young, the older stuff.
Right.
And then he had told me like, you're going to start here so you can progress through and like why this guy plays like this is because of this guy. And because of this guy. So
it all makes sense.
Going through the timeline, everything kind of started to gel. So by the time I got to the point where I could stomach some Coltrane, I listened to a lot of other saxophone players that led to Coltrane ultimately.
Yeah.
And it just was a little more palatable.
One thing that you do that I know Coltrane did a lot too, but a lot of jazz players do that I just love is you quote. And for those who don't know what that is, when you're playing a solo, just right off the top of your head, and you feel like just referring to another song, and you might play a little melody from it. It could be anything. It could be the theme to Gilligan's Island, right? It could be anything.
Right.
Whatever you feel like, but you quote it. You just put a little bit of that in, you mix it in, and then you can move on. You don't play the whole thing. It's just a little hint, and then somebody goes, "What? You just play the theme from Gilligan's Island or whatever it is." It's just so great. And if you got half a brain, which you do, it usually makes sense, like what you're quoting within the context of the song you're playing. And I just love that. I love that. Nobody else in the Franklin Brothers does that. Not even me or Jay, nobody.
There's so much music swimming around in here at any given moment. Something just like, it just.
So I'm going to play a little bit of a reimagined Beatles song that we did with the Franklin Brothers, and Ced did the solo. It's Things We Said Today. You quoted Summertime. I don't know if you remember this.
Nothing's here to say, and that's enough to make you mine, girl. Be the only one. Love me all the time, girl. We'll go on and on. Someday when we're dreaming, deep in love, not a lot to say. Then we
So yeah, that's what I'm talking about. So when did you start Epitome, and why?
So after I got here to New London with the Coast Guard band, just acclimating to like the whole newness of that, being in New England, living up here for the first time, with my family here, all of us being from Texas,
Right.
being now in the Coast Guard instead of the Air Force. So it took a while to settle.
Yeah.
And let things kind of, just settle and be.
How long have you been here?
13 years now.
Wow.
And so, once I got settled, then I started trying to play around with people who were in the area.
Mm.
And I met some cats like up in Hartford, New Haven, they were playing. And I knew that I wanted to have a band of my own so that I could play the stuff that was trapped in here.
Yeah.
And so actually the traditional jazz band that I played in the Coast Guard band was Tom and Sean and Mark and Nathan and Robert. That was like, our core little group of jazz people.
Yeah.
And so after playing with them a good while, we just started to gel and get really comfortable. And so then I was like, well, that's it. I mean, I needn't search anymore. I play with these guys every day, so we know each other in and out. So this is about as perfect as it's going to get. So I asked them if they were interested in forming a thing, and they were down. So I started writing out some charts and getting some ideas for stuff, and then we put it together.
Now, you play some standards in this band, your own interpretations, but you also have written some tunes for the band.
Mm-hmm.
And I recorded your album.
That's right there at Pop.
At Pop Studios, the old one in New London. And I remember it was just amazing. Here these four guys, they're all playing in an open room together. And it wasn't like, there wasn't the traditional sort of rock and roll sound on sound, put down a drum track, put down a bass track, and the singers go in the booth or whatever. It's literally like 1, 2, 3, go, and everybody plays at once. And at the end of the song, you're like, that's pretty good. Let's do another one. It's very natural. And, and you played a tune that you wrote, and I had never heard it before. And I just thought, wow, this is really cool. I wouldn't even know how to go about writing a tune like that. So I want to play one of the tunes, one of my favorite tunes, which is the last tune on the album, Going Home. Mm-hmm. And this is a song you wrote, right?
Yep.
That's amazing. Let's listen to this whole thing. You know what's great about that song is it doesn't have any lyrics, obviously, but I can hear it, like going home, like, you know what? And if you were going to talk about what it means to go home, if you were going to sing something, that's the melody that it would fit. It's just so obvious.
One day I hope to be able to put lyrics to melodies. It's really hard for me to do. I struggle with that a lot. I wish I could do better, but
do you need to though? I mean, it speaks, you know?
There's some stuff that like you just want to get out in a more fuller, more vivid, communicable way.
Yeah.
And that's through language. Many times the melody itself can speak, but then oftentimes there's nothing beats the power of some powerful verses that just reach inside people and grab a hold.
Right. Can you talk about the guys in the band? Mark McCormack, the bass player, he played with John Schofield and my band on Groover Get Out of the Way. And I've used him as a studio musician on other songs that people have come in and recorded. But tell me about your connection with Mark.
So Mark was the leader of the traditional jazz band group here at the Coast Guard band. So when I auditioned, he was leading the group.
Wow.
And he still to this day leads that group. And so he's a phenomenal bass player, and a musician in general, because his scope and knowledge of music is unbelievable. But he's also an amazing person.
Yeah, I agree.
That makes it really easy to go in and make music with somebody when they're that caliber of person and musician.
Yeah.
Makes it super easy. And he's been, like you said, he's been playing in this area for a long time.
He's a guy that can pick up an electric bass and play the funky stuff that we were doing with Sco, and then at the same time pick up an acoustic bass and play Cherokee at 90,000 miles per hour.
Right.
Like
right.
What? And never miss a note.
And conversely, can also grab a bow and play, some of the most difficult orchestral pieces for bass that exist.
I want to play a little of Cherokee to illustrate Mark's prowess here. Speaking of prowess, that was some pretty badass clarinet playing right there, my friend.
Fancy.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about Robert.
Robert Langslet was the pianist for the Coast Guard band. He had come in probably a year, 2 at most after I got in the Coast Guard band, because Jan Frankel, who was a long-time Coast Guard band pianist, transitioned to another position within the Coast Guard, creating an opening, and that's how we miraculously found Robert. I mean, as you know, listening to Jan play, he's a freak of nature on piano.
He's also like the tallest individual you've ever met, right?
Yeah.
He's a freak of tallness.
For sure.
But
and
yeah,
his
he hovers over the piano, you know, he's just like,
he has this
dominates,
giant, like multiple octaves.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Amazing player.
Yeah, super. And in fact, so much so that the band was like, I mean, we're not going to find anybody like Jan that can play jazz the way he plays and also understand classical the way he does, and also writes the way, because he was the arranger for the band for a while. And so the band was scratching his head going, you know, we'll just throw out the net and see what happens. And out of nowhere shows up Robert after like 2 non-successful piano auditions. And we're like, where did this guy come from? It's incredible. Yeah. And oddly enough, he's like, you know, bred from the same line as Jan was musically, going to school in New York and everything.
Yeah.
So they, you know, they really had a good bond, because they had, you know, the same teachers, played with a lot of the same people that were still in the area, which was cool. But Robert was an amazing pianist and a musician. Very
he still is, but he's not in town anymore, right?
He got out of the Coast Guard band and moved back to the West Coast, where he's from originally. He's out in Oregon, still making music, still recording, still writing. I think he's doing film scores now, actually, which doesn't surprise me.
Yeah. Brilliant guy.
And so when he got to the band and really started to express the different kinds of music that he liked to play, that was right up my alley, because I wanted my band to be able to go in many different directions, and he could handle that with ease. So having him, you know, be a part of that project seemed a no-brainer.
If we could pick a song on your album that would highlight Robert, what would it be?
He had a pretty interesting solo on Crimea River, I think. He also, what he played on Voices in My Head, I thought was just gorgeous.
That's right. He did a sort of a strange intro to that, right?
Yeah.
All right, let's play a little of the intro to Voices in My Head, and then we'll go into Crimea River. So good. Ooh, indeed. Yeah. Wow. Okay. So who's left? Nathan, the drummer. He still plays with the New London Big Band.
He does.
Yeah.
Nathan, you know that old saying, the hardest working man in show business?
Yeah.
That's Nathan. That guy plays with everybody from Massachusetts to DC and then some. Literally, he's all over the place.
Yeah.
Orchestras, jazz bands, rock. Like, that guy plays
Yeah.
all over the place and kills it with everything. He's amazing.
Right.
Sorry. Yeah. There's some drummers and are great in their own right, but he's a musician and hears and feels the music at hand and then adapts, which is what makes him so valuable.
Yeah. You could hear it there in Cry Me a River. He was responding to what Robert was doing on the piano in real time, little call and response there. There's another song that you guys did on this album that I really loved. And you might have thought it was I don't know what you thought about it. I can't say that, but so it's People Make the World Go Round. And this was a sort of unassuming tune that came out in the 60s. It was like a civil rights anthem. But it wasn't really a jazz thing. It was like a soul music tune. And you guys just transformed it into this wonderful, wonderful jazz piece. What made you pick that one?
That song has been stuck in me for a really, really long time. My father, who has an extensive album collection, he used to play that track from time to time. And even when I was a little kid, there was something about that song. It had this quality to it, that just like seeped in. And I remember it like clearly, even from a kid, just hearing it and just being mesmerized by it. And it stuck with me forever.
It had a real serious tone to it, didn't it? It was like, hey, I'm talking to you. You should listen to this kind of thing.
Absolutely. And I was like, 4, 5, 6 years old when I used to play that. And I knew nothing of music at the time.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of records that he and my mom played, and some of those songs just earwormed their way in.
Yep,
swam
totally.
For years and years and years. And that was one of them. And so when I decided I wanted to do something with that track, just something about the way the harmony worked.
Yeah.
Decided in my head that I could also make the time as angular and do something with it. And it just kind of worked out that way.
Right. Yeah, it's cool. You changed the time signature too. Let's play a little bit of that. People Make the World Go Round. Okay. At a certain point, when we were playing together in the Franklin Brothers, you came up to me and said, hey, if you're looking for a female vocalist, I've got someone you should meet. And, at the time we had a female vocalist, but she wasn't in town all the time. And, we kind of struggled with that a little bit. And you said, hey, check this lady out. So, Nichelle Rollins came in and effortlessly won our hearts. She's just so great.
Yes.
So thank you for that introduction.
Absolutely.
I'm going to play 100 Days, 100 Nights by Sharon Jones and the Dap Kings, featuring Nichelle Rollins. Check this out.
I had a man tell me things, made me feel just like a queen, and I thought he was the one I would hold. Yes, I did. But one day I looked around. That old man could not be found. 100 days for his heart to unfold. 100 days, 100 nights for a man's heart. 100 days, 100 nights to know a man's heart. 100 nights and a little more before he knows his
So, Ced, do you consider it slumming to play Steely Dan tunes and all the section parts that you have in the Franklin Brothers? I mean, you're a serious musician. How come you stick around?
It definitely isn't slumming. I learned very early on that there's humility in music. You're never too big for your britches, as they say in the country, and there's always opportunities to learn. And, before playing with you guys, I was familiar with some Steely Dan, but I didn't know it. And so after working with you guys, I was like, all right, they're serious about this kind of stuff. So I need to learn so I can better understand it and contribute if I get the chance to work with them in this capacity. So it's great working with you and Jay, because you guys know so much music, and you know it inside and out, like every little nuance, detail, and that's really cool to me. And so I really enjoy just learning, like watching you guys work, watch you perform, listening to you do it. It's a really humbling and learning experience. Not to mention just, man, Che is such an unassuming cat, but like he's music.
Che Cartafalsa, the percussionist.
Che is living music history, man. That guy.
He is.
He's played with some folks and he knows a lot of stuff. And so just like I get to talk to him like almost every gig. Yeah. And I learn more and more about music and what he's done and where he's been, and just my mind is blown.
I know he is living history. I mean, he jammed with the Dead at Woodstock. Right. How many people can say that?
Exactly. And then, and Tommy on drums, but he himself also is like,
yeah,
and he knows some music. Like it's in him. I just love like standing in front of him playing, because the pocket is just so.
Oh yeah.
It is.
It's a great group of people we have.
It is. It's fantastic. And
man, the honor is ours. I mean, to play with cats like you and the rest of the guys, we are just blown away that we've assembled such a great band.
Another thing is that it's fun.
Yes.
Even in like a lot of the highfalutin, high pressure, high profile gigs that I play, sometimes the fun can get lost.
Yeah. And
so it's always nice to, come home and play with the Franklin Brothers band. And it's all about the music and all about having a good time.
Totally.
That's healing for me.
Yeah.
On many occasions.
Absolutely. Ced, I guess we'll leave it here. Man, thank you for the music, and thank you for Like I said, I was just blown away. I've been playing with you for a few years, and then I looked at your bio and I was like, oh my God, talk about music history, living history here. We've got a real pro. So thanks.
Awesome. Thank you guys for letting me be a part of the Franklin Brother fold.
All right. You got it. It means so much to me, too.
Awesome.
All right. Thanks, Ed.
You got it.
Bye-bye. You're listening to No Excuse for Boredom from noexcuseforboredom.com and wherever you get your podcasts. All the music you're hearing I've composed and produced myself unless otherwise noted. I'm solely responsible for creating, recording, editing, and producing this content. If you'd like some help getting your podcast sounding this good, drop me a line at carl@franklins.net or on Mastodon at carlfranklin@techhub.social. If you'd prefer not to hear ads, consider buying me a latte once a month via Patreon, and you'll get ad-free episodes delivered right to the palm of your hand. Go to noexcuse.carlfranklin.com to sign up. And hey, don't take any wooden nickels.